So last time we'd been set up at the Spectrum Palace, which has this kind of weird rainbow palace area, but then a lot of caravans and people park here, and there's these religious adherents of the satraps that we'd previously interacted with. We had the introduction of Niketh, played by Alex, who joined the caravan, meeting up with us here because Niketh wants to continue on the road and does not want to be stuck at the Spectrum Palace forever. You cannot blame him. It's a weird place. We did some investigation of the weird wounds and things that various people in the caravan had gathered. Kozue was able to take care of the mechanical puncture wounds that Nida and Azure D had acquired somewhere. They seemed vomish in nature. Some sort of corruption infection. We'd gone off and had some interactions with the ecstatics, which are these servants of the satraps. Niketh went off with some of them. Saffron actually followed and was introduced and was able to go in and meet with Satrap 75, who had been investigating the crystal snail that we had given them earlier. There was some discussion about how to take care of the light shard that's in Nida's eye. It's still kind of unresolved because everyone is like, why would you remove it? It's super rad. So we'll see where that goes. Saffron spent some time talking to Satrap 75 and kind of learning about how the satraps handle the concepts of souls and bodies and stuff like that, to try to see what they can learn that can apply to bringing Mother back. And then we did some trading. There was some bits around some warnings about what is ahead of us. I don't remember what was the interesting details of that.
It was that to enter the Black City, you need to cross an area that is very, very dangerous. There's some toxic dust.
Yeah. Okay. So we have some heads up warning that we might need some preparation down the line.
And then I'm pretty sure Kozue got the information that signs about the apocalypse can be acquired on the Dead Bridge or near the Dead Bridge. There are ghosts there, and Kath heard that answers to a very important question can be acquired in dreams when you spend a night at the Lonely Lodge, and that's on the Ivory Plains or Ivory Plain. And then at the end, Kozue played an ancient board game against Satrap 226, and that is where she heard the rumor. And I think we can start maybe after the first week. You are all together in your very austere white squarey building. Maybe it's still in the morning, which means it is completely well, not completely dark. It has this. You all know that until noon, the sun is obscured by this violet haze. And also you have this gigantic window that looks out onto the palace, and above the palace, as long as the sun is not out, there are these aurorae that light the sky like a laser show from a club or something. So it's actually quite difficult to find sleep. But you spent the week in this building, and you came together to discuss the next steps. So maybe this is a good opportunity to introduce the characters. What would Nida do in the morning? How does she look like, and what do we see her doing?
Oh, I slept wrapped up in my cloak last night, as usual. And I'm assuming Vigo's already up making coffee.
Yes.
So, yeah. I'm probably sitting near Vigo, idly chatting about nothing much in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Wondering where the heck Umberto got off to. Drinking coffee.
Yeah. Vigo's sipping his coffee as well, and he looks over to you, Nida, and he says, well, shouldn't we look for him then?
Yeah. We didn't bring that little... And at this point, I close my eyes and I shake my head. It's like, we didn't bring him this far to lose him now. I mean, we picked him up at the Behemoth Shell, for God's sake. That was months ago.
It is. I kind of like him, I have to say.
How did that scrawny little shit survive this long?
And Vigo is shaking his head. And as always in the morning, he will, the coffee pot is cooking again, and he will move over to Saffron and pass the coffee cup. And how does Saffron look like, and what do they do in the morning?
I think Saffron has been up for a little bit, but is kind of over by, like, if we have like a little heat source. I'm picturing some kind of like janky retrofitted space heater type looking thing that we like have to kick a few times in the morning to get it to produce a little bit of heat.
Nice.
Saffron is in completely shrunk down mode, but in their cloak, and so it's this like little-ish prairie dog body in this way too big cloak, and kind of like hunched up, holding the cup of coffee that Vigo gave them, and just kind of being like, "It's a cold morning. Thanks for the coffee."
You're very welcome. And Keith, have you had a chance to look at the space heater? Because it is actually really jank. Oh, you muted. I'm sorry.
If it's not broken, then it's still producing heat. I don't want to touch it.
So how does Keith look like?
Oh, sorry, you were talking to me. It's Niket. It's Niket.
Niket. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Nikith is my older brother. Niketh buries himself at night or finds a small cave. He tries to get as much of his body covered in soil as possible. This is for protection, and also because he prefers the touch of Mother, Father Earth more than any blanket in the world. His mornings are spent outside with his holy spork, which is indestructible, digging for grubs and worms and small rodents, which he then devours on the spot with thanks to the ancestors, and then comes in to the house, cleaning the worms and grubs and rodents out of his teeth with his spork, and brushing his fur down. He smells the coffee and recoils slightly from it, although he is interested, and he looks at it and he says, "What is this thing?"
It's it's a powerful potion that helps you wake up. It's bitter though.
Well, not for my people, but you are having trouble with this element here.
Vigo will kick it once or twice and says, "Yes, it's just junk."
Well, I will take a look at it. Perhaps the elemental in it has decided to go back to its home.
And
he takes a look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see that years of neglect have paid. The machine has paid a price for years of neglect. But you're feeling pretty confident. If you would take it apart, clean some parts, and then put it back together, it would just work fine.
Okay. In that case, I will walk over to my chest and bring it over and open it very carefully. It is, you open the box, and then there's another part which you open up, and it kind of unfolds like origami. And to everybody else, it may look like just complete junk that he's found, lying around in trash heaps, which is not too far from the truth, actually. And he will look for pieces, and he will get out his cleaning supplies and his cleaning oils and his lubricants and all these kind of things. Lubricants I make myself, by the way. It's an old home recipe that my crash mother taught me.
And so Kozue, who is known for sleeping in, I think, you will be being awakened by Kev banging against the space heater.
I am trying to wake the elemental. I'm sorry.
In that silent machine?
Yes. I'm going by the assumption that it is powered by an elemental of some kind, and the elemental has gone to sleep, obviously.
If that works for you, I shan't contradict you. Kozue rubs her eyes and has a quiet conversation with something that's not there. And she says, I remember that people wanted to look for Umberto. Is that right?
Naida was mentioning Umberto. I think we don't want to leave him behind.
Well, certainly not without knowing that he wants to actually stay here.
Yes.
Fair enough.
And that he's safe. I mean, I suppose that's more important than whether or not he wants to stay here.
Kozue puts a little bowl onto the brazier that she has and tosses in a few things that look like shavings off of mushroom and a little bit of water, and starts to brew something.
Vigo will eye you suspiciously. He exchanging a glance with Nida and then leaves the room. Vigo is a ghost hunter and very skeptical about Kozue's powers. And he has probably good reasons to be afraid.
I want to follow Vigo outside.
So, Kozue, do you want to perform an... Oh. Okay. Yeah. So, outside, Vigo will light a cigarette. Well, it looks suspiciously like a joint, but it's a cigarette. I'm making quotation marks. Nobody can see this. And he leans against the wall and looks at you, Nida.
We've traveled together for long enough. What's on your mind? That bothered you.
Kozue is a witch, and she communicates with ghosts. Do you remember Soba?
Of course.
She was possessed by her for some time, and I'm a ghost hunter. I'm just uncomfortable with her. What can I say?
So there's nothing unusual or new.
There's nothing new. It's against my instinct. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Your instincts have kept you alive this long. They're obviously doing something right for you. But, and I'll put my hand on Vigo's shoulder. Maybe all ghosts aren't bad.
And he looks at you with utter disgust. They're the undead. They haunt and possess.
Are they undead or merely unfinished?
Either way, they need to be captured and destroyed. They're unnatural and they are like a blight on the land. How are we supposed to build a new world with, you know, the shame and sins of the past haunting us?
Maybe the point of that haunting is to make sure we don't repeat their mistakes.
Well, maybe we don't want to remember the mistakes. We just want to start anew.
And then we can do it all over again and make more ghosts.
I don't know, Nida. It's just Kozue is very powerful, and she bothers me. I mean, I will keep my distance, and that's it.
I understand. You mind passing that over? And I pointed to his cigarette.
He passes the cigarette.
And I'll take a nice long drag and hold it as I pass the cigarette back. And I'm totally okay cutting there.
Okay, cool. So, Kath, you definitely managed to fix the heater, and in the meantime, Kozue had finished her brew. And Kath, do you stay for the augury or do you do something else?
It depends. Do I know where the Lonely Lodge or the Ivory Plains are?
You know where the Ivory Plains are. or the ivory plane is, if you look at the map. So you have acquired a map. The caravan has acquired a map a long time ago, and so the map on the character keeper is the actual map that the caravan possesses. And excuse me. And if you go to the map tab on the character keeper, you can see that the ivory plane is 2 weeks to the south of the Spectrum Palace. You need to scroll a bit down, though.
Sorry, I'm missing the link again. Hold on.
Oh, I can hold on a second.
Is it in the Slack channel?
It is pinned to the Slack channel, but I can also.
There's the character keeper.
Yes, and on the character keeper, there's the second tab called Map, and if you scroll down to 200, and yes.
Sorry,
And we'll be right there.
So did you get the link, Alex?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. And so, yeah, you do know where to travel to. You don't have to ask for directions.
Okay.
But
and
yes.
Specifically to the Lonely Lodge itself.
No, you haven't. So this where did you get the information from Celesta, I think, from the ecstatic.
Yeah, I got it. Yes,
yeah,
correct.
And she just mentioned that it's on the plane, not where exactly.
Okay, in that case, I will run off and see if I can talk to people to get more specific information.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Obviously, the Ivory Plains are a large place, and
yes,
we don't have to run around, looking randomly.
Mm-hmm.
We need a bit better directions than that.
Nice. So there is a mechanic in the UVG if you want to get information about discovery. You can roll with the appropriate stat. So, I mean, you're asking around. I assume it would be charisma. So if you're so inclined, just make a simple charisma check. I've seen that you, so you're a diesel dwarf, and that is your heritage.
Yes.
And the heritage you can write next to two stats, actually. But I can invoke it negatively.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to, you could say you could put diesel dwarf again next to charisma as well, or strength, or wisdom, whatever you think is special about diesel dwarfs. You know what? So being a diesel dwarf, what would it affect? Which stat would it affect most?
Well, the con that I already have put in makes sense.
Yes, you can eat. Mm-hmm.
The charisma might make sense in terms of the fact that they're so mechanically gifted makes them, and this is kind of generally known,
mm-hmm.
that they are accepted in many different types of communities
mm-hmm.
because of that.
Yeah.
So I could see that is a possibility.
Definitely. It's completely your decision. It could be, it could be intelligence because you interact with, you can repair stuff and find out what's wrong with it. It could be strength, it could be dexterity because you can actually fix it. But charisma makes definitely sense.
Yeah, I think actually intelligence would make more sense in terms of figuring stuff out.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
cool.
I am no great shakes at charisma, but you know.
And then you can also write one of your other groups next to one stat. So you haven't specified your affiliation, which is okay. You can still wait for it, but you could say because you are a disciple of Vulcan, that gives you the edge on, I don't know, could be charisma, could be wisdom, something that you picked up, you know, because Vulcan has left the Earth, I think, and so I don't know what the teachings of Vulcan actually say, but maybe that affects one stat. I mean, you are a tracker, so to speak. You're like a hunter within the diesel dwarfs. Maybe that is the affiliation. Or your vocation is a tracker, so you could put tracker, for example, next to wisdom, which makes totally sense.
Yep,
you are aware of your surrounding. But in any case, when you ask around, I think the stat that you would check is probably charisma.
Okay. So do you want me to roll on the sheet, or do you want me to roll just?
Oh, whatever you prefer. If you have dice at hand, you can just roll.
Yeah,
them.
I have got it. And we're just doing the D20, yes? Just rolling under.
And equal or under. Equal is actually a critical success.
Oh, I rolled a 6.
Nice. So I think when you leave the building, there's the sweet smell of some herbs that are burnt, and Vigo, with his large eyes, looks at you a bit glassy, I would say, and in front of the in between the buildings, there is a stage. And the stage is, so there's this improbably tall wagon pulled by monitor lizards, and the whole front of the wagon can be swapped, or like what it's called, like the whole front of the wagon turns into a stage. And there's like a half-elven theater company that is obviously rehearsing a theater piece, and there are people standing around, and you ask around because they are far traveled. And one of the half-elves, who's not in the scene at the moment of this piece, tells you that the Lonely Lodge is to the north of the Ivory Plains, and if you have the map at the ready, she will indicate it on the map. So when you reach the Ivory Plains, you will be able to find it. But I have a question for you about the theater piece. So it is. It seems to be like existentialist in some way. And my question would be, what about the theater performance is slightly disturbing, and which one touches you? So there are two elements. It could be the stage itself. It could be like a dialogue or costume.
Naketh is very confused by the theater because this is not something that his people are into. They are much too literally minded. So he assumes that this is a manual, an instructional manual that is being delivered by these people, that they're instructing the young ones as to something. So he watches for a little bit and is waiting for the instruction, and the technical specifications of what needs to be repaired, and he gets quite confused when they speak of such personal and esoteric things. So he asks one of the people who seem to be involved with it, when does the instruction come?
And the half elf that you were talking to looks at you quizzically, and she says, "This is not an instruction, unless you think it teaches you the human condition."
I do not understand, but maybe because I am not human, these things are not meant for me. My people teach each other things about how things are put together, how things work, how things can be repaired and maintained, and how life can be made better for the collective.
But your mind needs to be fixed as well, no?
Why? Does it look like it is broken?
Well, it can be broken.
Well, yes, but... so this is for fixing mind, yes? If mind breaks, these people come and they fix, yes?
Well, they teach you also about the beauty and pain of just living. Have you not experienced this?
The half-elf gets a very blank expression in return.
And she sighs and she says, everybody takes enjoyment from something else in this piece. And maybe you just enjoy the technical part. Maybe you enjoy looking at the pretty faces. Maybe you pick something up else. I cannot tell you how to enjoy this.
Enjoyment. I have heard of this concept, yes. It is purposeless and useless, but elevates the... I believe there are chemicals in brain that it affects, yes?
Yes. When you go to the Lonely Lodge, maybe you will learn something there that you cannot find in manuals.
Everything can be found in manuals. You just have to find the right manual, is what my crash mother taught me.
That is true. And if you will, this theater piece is some kind of manual, and the dreams that you will experience will be some kind of manual.
This is very new to me, but I am interested in becoming brain mechanic like you.
Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, Vigo approached the scene, and he looks really fascinated by the theater piece, and absent-mindedly passes you the joint. And that is maybe where we fade out from this scene. Can
I just say
yes.
one last thing?
Of course.
He takes the joint without even realizing what he's done, and he looks at it and then sticks it in his mouth and eats it.
To the utter disgust of Vigo.
It burns pleasantly.
In the meantime, Kozui, you have brewed your potion. What do you do next?
Well, I'm going to be making a trip down to the Dead Bridge, and I wish to be warned about the dangers of this trip, especially on behalf of the other people. And so, having brewed the potion, Kuzue then takes a stick that has been whittled down to a long, slender rod. She stirs the potion with it, and she brings it out, and it is sort of a viscous substance with the consistency of sort of maple syrup. And she reaches up and she puts a droplet of it in each eye, and her eyes go black.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is beautiful because obviously you have to pay with life for your miracle.
Yes.
And I think this will be a D3, I think.
Okay. D3 coming up. And that's just a 1. So
yeah, so it obviously hurts you. It hurts your eyes, but it
also blinds me to a considerable extent for the time being. But it lets me see some things that otherwise are invisible.
Yeah, I like it.
So that the course, which is in this case our course down to the dead bridge, and what the future may hold.
So
it's very difficult to see both the future and the present at the same time.
No, I love the concept. Before your third eye, so to speak, you see a chasm, which seems to be never ending. And there are structures on the side of the chasm that you are in your spiritual form or in your dream form that indicate that there was some kind of force bridges, but they are all switched off. They are non-functional and haven't been for a millennium maybe. But there's one single archaic bridge of actual stone, and you can see that there is something stirring in the deep, and it is iridescent, but it completely breaks like normal three-dimensional forms. It's somehow folded into other dimensions. And in its presence itself, it seems to break the laws of physics. And the other thing you can see is there are some kind of biomechanical spiders, flower encrusted, that build nets under the bridge and crawl there. You don't see any ghosts, but that is the danger that you are aware of.
Understood.
And let me see. So Saffron and Nida, I think you two were looking for Umberto. Is that true?
Sure. We were kind of, I think, the remaining blocker before we head out. So happy to help Nida look for Umberto.
Well, that and the shard, but Saffron, where do you think we should look first? What do you think we should do? I figure with your prairie dog senses, you're probably going to be better at. If you want to track him, I figure you'll be better at that. I mean, maybe even talking to people around here.
Could try sniffing him out, but we might just try some of the most likely places that we think he might have gone.
So where do you go first? Yeah, well, what is your approach? Do you ask around? Do you sniff for him? I like the idea because obviously you have the prairie dog senses. Or do you just check out?
Yeah, I like the idea of sniffing for Umberto, but I think I want us to head somewhere where we think he might be first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I'm not like such a bloodhound that from across the plains I can catch a whiff, but.
The locations you know of is the Blue Paper Abbey. There's the Rainbow Wall. There's the palace proper, and there are the two hills.
Do you have any hunch where he went, Nida?
I haven't the foggiest because most of the time he's just been bragging about how good he is. Why don't we try the Rainbow Wall? Maybe somebody dared him to climb it or something like that.
Worth a shot.
So you approach the Rainbow Wall, which is like layers of these hard light that you have already experienced. And there is one satrap standing in the to the entrance of the Rainbow Wall, and I have a question for Nida. They're showing tricks of light and shadow. What kind of tricks are they?
Well, considering I have this shard in my eye, they're not tricks at all. I see right through them. So it's basically just a satrap using light projectors to make things seem like a trick, but it's just hard light projection. If I didn't have this thing in my eye, I'd probably be impressed.
And Saffron, do you want to try to sniff here?
I might as well like keep my nose open in case we. I don't know. Does Umberto have a signature scent?
That is a good question.
Did he leave anything behind that I can use to try to match against?
Or maybe something he grooms.
I mean, he has this pretty impressive black beard, and I do think that he uses some kind of beard oil.
That's a decent scent to start with. I probably have some recollection of that from being packed in an auto wagon.
So I guess that's a charisma check with advantage. Sorry, not charisma. A wisdom check.
Wisdom. Yeah. Get some dice. $20. No, those are double 19s.
Wow. So what's the next place? Yes. Yeah, so there's actually, you pick up a lot of smells from mainly the ecstatics that enter and leave the palace, and from some visitors. But the familiar smell of Umberto is not to be smelled.
Darn. Unless we want to ask before heading out, we can try someplace else.
I'm cool with asking around if you want to.
If our first guess didn't seem like it worked, then let's see if
also,
anyone knows.
Since it's been a week, is there any chance that the merchants have updated their stock or gotten new inventory?
Well, I mean, new caravans arrive, caravans that have been there leave. So there are definitely there's a new caravan that you can check out for wares.
Okay, because I'd like to get more of the VC healing lotions. Since I don't know that we're going to have a lot of opportunity to do that between here and the Black City.
That is true. Yeah, we can do that in a minute. But where do you look for Umberto? So he's definitely not at the Rainbow Wall.
Yeah, I think Saffron had a good idea in terms of like asking around, seeing if anybody had seen him.
Okay, so and you're on a strategically useful position because the Rainbow Wall is the entrance to the palace, and there's a lot of traffic. Who's doing the talking? Nida? You're not that much of a talk. But
well, neither of us are.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a few groups that I need to add. Leveling up. So I'll go ahead and add Legion next to Charisma. In the hopes that maybe people knowing about the Legion will improve our odds of getting something useful. Alrighty, so there's a 7 and a 4. So
nice.
With my whopping 9 charisma, I managed to get 2 successes to make up for, Chris's wisdom thing.
I think we can see Nida asking a couple of ecstatics, and one of them says, "A small guy with a black beard. Oh, I've seen him. He thinks about joining us, I think. I've seen him on the Hill of Return." And she points you to, let's see, yes. Sorry, the Hill of Return, which is to the side of the palace, and there's a path leading up.
Okay. So
I guess you're following the path, and on the top of the hill, it's relatively rocky, and there's this like grasses growing everywhere. But the top of the hill itself is covered by a bare glass plate, and there are ecstatics in garbs that scrub it clean. And you can see that one of these ecstatic is actually Umberto, who's wearing the robes of a disciple of the satraps. So what do you do?
Umberto, do you have a moment?
And to your, I don't know how you react to it, but he has this slightly mindless smile when he looks at you, almost as if he doesn't recognize you, A, and B, obviously he has the same smile that all the other ecstatics have. And he says, "Of course, Nida."
I want to pull him aside. Saffron, I'm curious. Can you pick up anything unusual with your prairie dog senses?
I can give him a good sniff, but we'll see. Okay, that's a 4. Which is much better now that I'm actually close up. I'm just bad at a distance, apparently.
So I don't think that you smell anything out of the ordinary. But I think, when I don't know, how does it look like when Saffron sniffs somebody out? Is it like you surround them and get really close, or is it more subtle?
I think this is more on the subtle end because I'm not doing the cartoonish bounce all over you and sniff everything. It's more the kind of lean in and be like, Alberto, you changed your clothes, and I go like, sniff his beard, sniff the cloak a little bit.
Nice. I think when you get close to Umberto, you can see that he has above his right ear, there's some kind of, it looks like a crystalline rash.
That's weird. Is it like kind of the same crystal look of the light shard in Nida's eye, or is it different?
It is different. Okay. I mean, you have been to the fungal field in the Spectrum Palace, and that is more like it.
Okay. So he's kind of literally turning into an ecstatic.
So Nida, what do you say? Or Saffron, do you tell Nida?
I think I do I try to do the subtle, come back to Nida, lean in and point a little bit. You see the bit on the neck, the stuff?
I want to look at it through the shard.
Illusion protection.
Yeah, it's not an illusion.
Can I make out anything unusual about the crystalline formation?
It does not look like super symmetrical or anything. It looks more organic, like some kind of organic grow.
Okay.
I mean, you can give me a wisdom check for more information if you want to. If you study him more closely.
I would love to give you a wisdom check.
I think he looks slightly uncomfortable because Saffron is sniffing around, although subtly, and Nida is staring at him, and he smiles and says, "So what's going on, guys?"
All right, let me see how this wisdom check goes.
Can I interrupt really quickly?
Yes.
Can you give me a 15-second version of who Umberto is?
Umberto is like a porter. He's not a porter. He's somebody who's hired, just like you, actually, to protect the caravan.
He's basically been something of a mascot for us.
Okay, yes. Gotcha. Thank you.
He's very. He's very brave. He's very brave, although he is pretty fragile. I think he overestimates his own abilities. And there's a running gag that he just has 1 hit point, but is always in the first row when there's an attack or something.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. But he's not currently. Is he going to come with us, or?
He is normally part of the caravan, so I think Nida and Saffron want to persuade him to get back to his post rather than joining this weird cult,
or at least make sure that he's okay and that this is his own free will.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And Horst, I got a 13 and an 8 on that wisdom check, and my wisdom is 10. So
nice. So I think what you pick up is this looks almost like the patterns of some kind of fungal spores. So if it's on the surface, if it's above his ear on the skull, you could swear that there's some kind of roots going deeper, and you don't know. It doesn't look like a big thing. It's not a huge rash, so to speak, or a huge infection. It's maybe the first stage, but you think that it's not just on the surface.
Okay. So, Umberto, come with us for a little bit. We want to make sure that you're. I want to get you checked out and make sure that you didn't pick anything up from the travels that might affect you if you want to stay here.
Mm-hmm. His smile falters a little bit, and he looks back at the plate. We need to clean this.
And I understand that, but I just want to make sure that you're not going to infect anybody else with anything that you might have picked up. And I pull out the little UV, like the VC bottle of the Vomish insectoids, and say, "See, Kozue pulled these out of me. We need to make sure that you don't have anything like that you can infect people here with."
And he looks at you with wide eyes. Oh, okay. And follows you.
And we will take him back to where we're camped up. And when Kozue is out of her reverie or her trance, we'll see if she can do anything with Umberto. Is there anything else you want to try, Chris?
No, this seems like a good plan since you managed to convince Umberto to come back with us.
I knew those insectoid Vomish things would come in handy.
And
I feel like you probably could have grabbed anything and used them as a prop and just lied, and it would have worked. But
Kozue, when the others return, I think, and Kath is probably also there. Kozue, how do you look like? Have your eyes cleared up? Is there like a painful expression, or have you totally recovered?
No, the eyes haven't cleared up. I've packed up my my kit and disposed of the remainders of the potion in an ethical fashion. Sort of carrying my bag over to where the people have their things piled up, and I stumble over an irregularity in the.
And that is when Nida, Saffron, I don't know, Kev, are you still at the theater, or have you returned?
No, Naketh has returned. He's obviously figured out everything that's going on over at the theater, and he's gotten his directions. So there's no further reason for him to stay with the traveling instructional video people.
You had to endure some kind of the wrath of Vigo, who told you you're supposed to take a toke and give it back.
I'm sorry, I did not understand. It's my people are different. Sorry.
So anyways, Nida and Kath, Saffron, when you return, Kozue is stumbling, and she looks, her eyes are, I don't know, black or white?
They're black.
They're black.
They have gone completely black with no features viewable in them. As do white sheep.
That was a cat.
Kozue just dropped something. She takes a cloth out of her, fumbles the cloth out of her bag and ties it around her eyes loosely. and then is making her way carefully towards everyone else.
Is everything all right, Kozue?
Oh, yes, I'm fine. I just can't see very well right now. What is going on? Were you able to find
Yes,
Umberto?
Umberto is here. We were going to have you check out to make sure that he's not infected with anything.
I'd be happy to do that.
Do you need a moment to recover?
This won't recover quickly, but I don't need my eyes. But if you, Umberto, are you here? If you can just sit down right in front of me.
Yes, of course. And Umberto sits down close to you.
Okay.
And he looks around a bit unsure what's going on.
And I'll lean and whisper to Kozue.
Mm.
There's a crystalline rash. It looks like something from the fungal fields.
Where is it?
And I will guide your hand to it.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to run my fingers over this rash. And I'm going to have my fetch look at it to see if there's anything in there.
Yes, so you can send your fetch into Umberto's brain. Let's see, your fetch is obviously is your item. So and it's I think you explained it before. It's actually you and the fetch is the same thing.
Yes, it's a part of my soul that has been specially purposed for interacting with the unseen, essentially. And it seems like a separate spirit if you have eyes to see that, but it is not actually. It is actually part of me.
And neither, I think, maybe neither sees the fetch for the first time. I mean, it's not really an illusion, but you can see behind the veil, so to speak, neither.
Oh yes.
And you see for the first time that it's this. Can you describe it? It's like a dragon, I think. It's
like a Chinese dragon. So it is a very elongated snake-like dragon shape, iridescent. So typically somewhat translucent.
And so neither sees the fetch circling around Umberto's head and then entering through the ear. And we can see, or Kozue can see, that it is indeed like a fungal infection. The crystals, they grow into the brain, and they are not very deep, but they have so you can see that the crystal is constantly sending signals, like signals that subdues Umberto and suppresses certain parts of the brain and stimulates others.
So I will step back a moment and mention this to Nida without saying it so loudly as to be overheard. He is, in fact, he's been, well, you can choose the verb, affected, inflicted, with crystalline infection. It is it is sending a message into his brain, and probably making him feel good at the same time. But it's definitely something from the outside.
So how do we get rid of it?
Has his brain been upgraded?
It depends on whether you would consider this condition to be an improvement or not.
He seems very happy.
He does, yes, he certainly does. But it's artificial. That doesn't necessarily condemn it. To answer your question, it's an infection. It can be healed, but I don't know whether it will leave damage in its wake. Brain infections are tricky things.
I have only learned of this today, so this is very new to me.
Yes.
Saffron, are you in earshot of all this?
I don't know. What seems more interesting that we're all kind of like huddled up trying to talk beneath our breath without.
I mean, I have a
noticing
suspicion that Vigo and Babeth and Austin's could probably keep him busy while we're trying to sort this
Yeah, we
out.
could like step aside and talk through it. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a case like this where you have something affecting the brain, you don't necessarily want to talk to a patient. Because
Yeah, I
they
think
may have a very different opinion on whether or not they want to be cured.
Yeah, I think the first part of the discussion when Kozue and Naida were whispering, you were standing next to Umberto, but then when Keith and Saffron chimes in, you probably
I'll step away and I say, excuse me a moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Vigo will talk to Umberto about, adventures that they had.
So we can, at least in theory, remove the infection, but we don't know what will happen if we do.
That's right.
We'd be doing it without his consent, but could he actually consent in the state that he's in?
Yes, I mean, could he? It's certainly possible. He doesn't seem to be unhappy or feel sick from his demeanor.
Well, speaking from the times when I've tried, whatever substances we found along the way on this trip, it was fun at first until it wasn't.
Yes. Well, and it's possible that until he gets to the point where he realizes that this is not good, that he may not desire to be cured. Of course, the longer the infection goes on, the more likely it is to damage him permanently.
And you just told us that it's enhancing. What was it? That it's enhancing the pleasure signals of the brain and muting other things.
I think so. It's certainly it's giving. It is the feeling I get is that it is enhancing his giving him a sense of purpose. We all are we all are cursed with the with decisions that we have to make, with our understanding of the world, of the complexities of the world, place upon us a burden of having to weigh one thing or another. It is a great solace to simply understand that that what you're doing is the right thing, and I think that is the sense that it is giving him.
And I look around. So do we remove this, or do we leave him here?
You've known him for much longer than I have. And you're his friend. I don't know.
Saffron?
If this were a thing that, could be removed with 100% certainty that he would be well, then I would say to treat him. But since it may hurt him, and since he is not at present desirous that this be changed, unless you can persuade him that he is not himself.
Saffron, what do you think we should do?
It's tough because he's not unhappy, but this also does not seem like where he wanted to end up. His goal for coming with us wasn't to end up on some, fungal high in a cult.
You could tell him the truth.
But the risk is real.
Being literally minded, Neketh, is the infection something that Neketh can clearly see himself?
Yes.
Is this something that I have seen in other people that are here, or is this unique to Umberto?
This is actually something that you have seen Celesta have, but Celesta has it in a much more in a more intense way.
Mm-hmm. I will excuse myself and say I must do some inquiries about this. This may be a problem or not. I'm not sure. And he will try and find Celesta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know her schedule well enough to know where she is at this point. I think that the sun is at this moment breaking through, and she's always in the visitor camp, welcoming new travelers.
Okay.
And she's happy to see you. Oh, Kath, I thought you were already gone.
There is something I wish to discuss that we have encountered, and I describe very clearly the infection, although I don't mention exactly who or what is involved there.
She says, "Oh, so you know the blessing."
This is blessing.
Oh, this is a blessing. It absorbs all the radiant spectra, and it leaves nothing but the glimmering light, the light of kindness, just as Satrap Zero absorbed all the lights.
I see. And once it has begun, is there a way of reversing?
She looks shocked. Reversing? You want to reject the blessing? This is unheard.
No, I have no blessing. This is not me we are speaking of.
I don't know. I hope not.
I see. Is there anyone who? Okay, so is there anybody in the camp that is an outsider to the ecstatics and the satrap that may have information about this?
Well, there's the new caravan arrived of karma dust collectors, and I don't know, Kath, probably you know from your travels that karma dust is a very valuable commodity in the ultraviolet grasslands, and these karma dust collectors, they all have glowing eyes. They're rainbow lenders, but they have this very intense stare and the glowing eyes, and they have their wares presented to potential buyers. And when you talk to them, they nod and they say, "Yes, it's we heard about this."
Is there any way of reversing?
If you're very careful, probably. I think it's. Is it a friend of yours?
Yeah, friend is too strong a word. An acquaintance.
You would have to do that against their will, obviously, but it should be done. It should be. It could be done.
From what it sounds, though, like the disease affects the will itself. Therefore, one's will can no longer be ascertained. True will. Unmodified by fungal growth.
Maybe you can speak to their soul.
I do not know these things. Why I come to you?
Well, there's a spirit in everyone, and the spirit is not the brain.
Nakath looks as glassy-eyed as the as the other imbibers did earlier. Obviously, having no clue what they're talking about.
And then they say, "So you're interested in the karma dust?
What is it for?"
Well, it can run soul mills. It can power machines.
Yes.
It removes sins, annihilates memories, purifies souls, foils detection magics on machines. It has a lot of uses.
This is very useful, yes.
It's 1,000 for a sack.
I will have to get back to you after I consult with my companions.
So Keth returns while probably neither Saffron and Kazuya are still in deliberations.
I pass on the information that I found, what little there is.
It's the idea of asking somebody's soul what they want is very uncertain one. It's certainly possible.
Are we going to try to noodle into his soul and see if we can?
I wish Hamish was here. Hamish seems like he can talk anybody into anything.
True.
And make it seem like it was their idea in the first place.
That's probably the more important part here. If we're having a moral dilemma about doing something without Umberto's consent.
Do we even know how? Go ahead.
Sorry, Nakath obviously has no big opinion on this, so he will leave the decision up to others.
Do we even know how these how this infection is transmitted?
You don't.
We were in areas where fungi abounded. But it doesn't mean that he contracted it then. It could have been happened a long time ago. I don't know enough about the natural progress of this kind of infection.
I think Saffron kind of like pulls the robe down a little bit and like looks at their neck and their like hands and stuff and is like, well, I didn't touch anything while I was in there and I seem fine.
Mm-hmm. But you have been in the caves, the fungal caves,
Yeah.
so that could be a place where the infection is spreaded.
But it wouldn't surprise me if this was passed on to someone, but whether they fully explain what you're getting into.
It may be like leprosy, where it is, it's contagious, but requires often requires prolonged exposure over a period of time. I don't know how much opportunity Umberto's had to be around other people who had this infection.
Right. So, Saffron, in the absence of any arguments to the contrary, I think we should try to remove it.
Okay. You're probably the closest of any of us to him, so.
Well, you knew him at least a little bit right after we recruited him.
Mm-hmm.
And you've known him for quite a while as well. If you concur, then
I think it goes back to what I said before of he didn't join our caravan looking for a cult for for this.
And besides, do you really want to explain to Hamish how we lost his friend?
That too, yeah.
All right, Causeway, what do you need from us?
It would be helpful to, I'm going to need to summon a number of tiny spirits. And it would be helpful to give them something to feed on. Blood will do.
Any particular kind of blood? Saffron kind of stammers out.
Oh, I mean, human. Sentient.
I'll do it.
All right.
Yeah, Kozue says human, and Saffron is like, "Whew, safe."
I pull out a knife and say, "How much do you need?"
Wait, I may have a simpler solution. My people do this, and he lifts up his shirt to reveal a shunt in the side of his abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I can extract body fluids from this, if you like. It is not painful.
I'm unfamiliar with your apparatus, but if it's the same, if it's blood, it's blood. As long as it's live.
Oh, yes. Well, I am alive, and blood is alive, and
Yes.
yes.
The only concern I have is that Nida has, Nida's more robust than you are.
So he happily goes over to his kit and finds a little bottle and attaches it to the port or shunt in his abdomen and siphons off a bit of blood.
So the way I see it, it is a very difficult operation. I would say it costs D6 life, but then there is D6 life for the procedure, which would mean there is like a roll involved. Let's say probably like a dexterity check. But it would be 2d6 to make sure that the operation won't have any lasting damage.
I don't think you have. I'm concerned that you don't. I'm concerned of taking too much from you.
I can control pretty well.
What if we stayed longer to give Kozue more time?
Yes, more time would reduce the cost. I want to say if it's like an operation, it's like this brain surgery that takes like literally hours or a whole day. I would reduce the cost to D6 again, and then there would be no roll required.
So that's still more than Kozue's HP, potentially. So Kozue, your max HP right now is 5.
It is.
So we need to bump it down. We need to figure out a way to
At least
D4. Like a D4. One option I can think of would be Saffron could assist with a second miracle.
Mm-hmm.
So I could, for example, doodle bugging to guide Kozue's hand. Doodle bugging guides you towards important things.
Yeah, that's true.
You can help me find. You can actually help me find some of the tiny voracious spirits.
Yeah.
I will describe them to you. They're not physical. They're eaters, is what they are. Like the analogy might be leeches, or carrion beetles. But they're tiny spirits.
Okay.
Yes, if you. So we bring them here with an attractive, and life is the easiest one. In the absence of a powerful focus of some sort.
Is there any way that the Vomish insectoids might be of use here? Like if we could reprogram them in some way, or if Saffron and Naketh could do that?
Oh, that's an interesting. I hate to mix therapies. I don't know I don't know the outcome.
If Kozue has a plan, then supporting it is probably easier.
These are tiny. The fungus are tiny plants that have taken up residence in his head, and we can send in tiny things to eat the plants. And that is the only thing that I would trust to be able to remove the fungus without removing significant parts of his brain.
Yeah, I think if Kev had the Golem programming kit, he could try to reprogram these Vomish things. But I think with Saffron and Kozue together, it would be D4 HP per miracle.
Okay.
And Saffron. So you prepare the operation, so to speak. Kozue and Saffron, how does it look like? How do you prepare or perform the miracle?
Nakath could also give D4 blood if that helps.
So
I like the image of, because Kozue, are you still bandaged on the eyes?
yes. Sorry, the light hurts. I can't.
Yeah. I picture Saffron kind of helping pick out these like spirits from the air. Like, so we have some of Nakath's blood that we set out, and we're like, do you have like some like tools, like special tools or something, almost like we're like peeling these tiny invisible spirits out of the air as they like swarm into the blood?
It's actually, they don't have, fortunately, you don't have to get them out of the air.
Okay.
I produce a stone disc that has little indentations in it.
Cool.
And the blood goes in there. It's like a very strange kind of tiny bird feeder with a different bait. And if you watch the drops of blood, they will. I'm going to summon the spirits to the area, and if you can see spirits, you will see them as a indistinct cloud. And then some of them will be attracted to the blood, and it will hold them briefly. And if you just suck up the blood with this hollow tube, just gently suck on it. So don't swallow it.
Okay.
And then you can blow them into this container.
Cool. I think that sounds really cool. I think the way the doodle bugging is coming into this is that's how Saffron knows which ones to select. Like, which are the important spirits for this operation.
And once the spirits are chosen, and you have to suck them out of this stone of the indentations. What does Saffron have to do, Kozue?
Well, after they've been sucked up, you can blow them into this container to hold them for a moment. And this is with it's got a stopper. And so when we finish, we will have some blood that is full of these tiny spirits. They will exhaust. They will have exhausted the vital essence in the blood in fairly short order, and they will be hungry again because they're always hungry. So then if Umberto will hold still, you can spread this onto his rash there, and then we'll cover it with these leaves here, which will hold them in briefly. They will go looking for something to eat, but they don't eat live flesh. They are Only they only eat essentially the, you know, so they shouldn't harm Umberto. And if we have enough of them, the hard part is to root out every little last bit of this. It may be a very strange experience for Umberto, and people should be nearby in case he has a seizure.
And so I think the whole operation takes the whole night, and it's an eerie scene. Through this big gigantic window, we can see the flashing lights over the palace being reflected in among others the crystals. We can see the you have described it as like a cloud of blood, or a cloud of Brandon. What was the spirits look like?
When initially summoned, they're like a cloud of tiny insects, where you almost cannot see the insects directly. But if you can imagine that you were seeing the fact that they're perturbing the air. So it's this very indistinct cloud of things too small to see, but you can tell that they're there. Like like the tiny gnats that people encounter sometimes, and they are attracted to the drops of blood, which hold them for a little while they're eating the vital essence inside. We remove them and then place them where they have something else to eat.
And when they applied on the crystal and then covered with leaves?
Yes, the leaves are distasteful, are simply distasteful. They don't like them, so that they will they will tend to remain there for a little bit and look for something to eat, rather than just dissipating back off into the spirit world. These leaves have been treated with red ochre, which makes them tangible and real to the spirits. They're not a physical barrier exactly, but they can taste it, and they don't like the taste.
And so during the course of the operation, we can see that in the early hours of the morning, it's still obviously black outside, with the violet haze slowly emerging, and with still the aurora playing over the palace. We can see that Umberto starts to shake, and I think that Saffron, you have the idea that these spirits have somehow lost their way, that they need to be guided, doodle-bugged towards the last fragments.
Yeah, I could see like carefully applying little bits of blood where the fragments still are to like guide the spirits, maybe.
And how does it look like for the viewers, so to speak? So how does Saffron guide them?
So the way Saffron's doodlebugging typically works is it's like if you're the old superstitious like hunting for water with like a stick, but Saffron kind of puts their hands out in like a kind of diamond shape in front of them, loosely kind of hanging arms, to let their body kind of get guided. And I think on Saffron's fingertips, they just put a little bit of Niketh's blood that we gathered, and just kind of lets their arms get guided and taps specific spots on Umberto's body to leave a little bit of blood.
Nice. And Nida and Kev, you see that Umberto is shaking and obviously in discomfort. What do you do?
I mean, there's not much that I know how to do besides I'm just going to walk over and sit down next to him and hold his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Nakath will try to see if he can figure out what is causing the convulsions.
Yeah, it's
Is it
difficult
too hot, too cold?
It's obviously something that is taking place inside of him. It is not an outside force.
Okay.
The fungus is impinging on his brain. The actions of the eaters as they are devoured, they're going to send strange messages.
Does he look like he might hurt himself?
Yeah, I mean, Nida sits next to him, but you could, yeah, he could theoretically like smack his head against the ground or something.
Put something under his head. Hold his arms if you have to.
Yeah.
Maybe just hold his head still.
That would be good. Yes, well, that would also help him make sure he doesn't shake off the poultice.
Yeah. Try to restrain him.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a gruesome night. It really takes hours and hours and hours. At some stage, the violet glow dissipates, and the sun actually comes out. But it's already noon, and maybe we can get the camera pans from one hero to the other, and probably you are all exhausted in different states of exhaustion. But finally, Umberto stops shaking, and he actually opens his eyes, and this eerie smile is obviously gone. And he blinks and he looks Nida in the eye and says, "Where am I?"
You're back with us. You were gone for a little bit. But you're okay now.
Nice.
It's a good sign that he can talk.
And that is a beautiful place to cut away from the scene. What is your next steps? I think you want to probably leave the Spectrum Palace. There's still the Karma Dust that you could buy if you want to.
Yeah, the Karma Dust, and if we can get any more of the VC healing lotion.
Let's make a roll. I rolled a d6, and there's a 2 in 6 chance. And I rolled a 6, obviously. So, unfortunately, no VC healing lotion.
Okay. How many bags of Karma Dust?
I rolled it in the break. It's 7 sacks.
7 sacks. Is this stuff obviously illegal?
Not of your knowledge. So what you could do is, if you would want to, that's maybe also an explanation for Alex. And I don't know if Brandon has been around when market research has been done. If you want to spend a week, somebody could ask around and check if the karma dust is worth like substantially more in a surrounding, in an area where you're traveling to. So the way it works is if you spend the week and you find somebody to schmooze, you would have to pay them a drink or, give them some presents or something. And then you could find out whether it is worth substantially more. You can pick, I think, 3 adjacent locations. But you can also say, karma dust, it's 1,000, and we just roll randomly at the next place where you could trade it. It's up to you.
If somebody feels like doing market research, I still need to get that shard out of my eye. And then a quick question. When we're resting, when we're in a location for a week, do we heal up?
Yes.
Okay.
We do the normal like healing rules.
So then my damage from giving the blood is that
if you would stay in for another week, you so non-wise characters heal 1 HP per day, and the wise characters Saffron and Kuzui heal 2 per day.
And strong?
1. But you could also, go on the road. But I think Nida wants to get rid of her shard.
Yeah, I don't like having to roll with disadvantage every time I pull the trigger.
Understand. And you do know that there are healers at the Neon Ziggurat, but you could obviously also ask Kuzui.
Yeah, I thought that was the plan when we finished up last time. Kuzui removes it from my eye, and then Kath fashions it into something that we can use.
Oh yeah, nice. So if you all agree to speed things up, maybe I think we have seen Kuzui being very professional about healing. Maybe Brendan, you can describe how you remove the shard without actually performing a miracle.
No. This is just surgery. This requires the only thing I have to give Nida is to give you a paralytic that will hold your eyes still for the 15 minutes or so that it actually takes to cut the shard out. As long as your eyes are absolutely still and you're not blinking, then it's just a matter of being careful to take it out. But any movement is, of course, incredibly perilous in this regard. So I give you something nasty to keep you from moving your eyes, paralyze the eye muscles for the duration of the procedure, and someone else can assist by putting drops in your eyes so that the fact that you're not blinking doesn't hurt.
And then for the rest of the week, I could imagine that Saffron, you have a week, you could go back to Satrap 75, or you could do market research. What do you think?
I think Saffron would be most likely to, unless someone else was like pressuring Saffron of like, hey, go figure out, we need more stuff for the caravan, figure out what we can buy while we're here, I think Saffron would by default go back to Satrap 75 and be like, we're stuck here for another week, so time to go absorb some more knowledge about souls.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like Satrap 75 was like enjoyed having a pupil, basically.
Mm-hmm. He definitely, or they, I have to say, definitely did, and they tell the following story about the first satrap. So a merchant, Satrap 75 says, approached the first to confess that he had eaten the fruit of the vile tree. The kindness of the first was unbounded when it saw the source of this peddler overridden by the reality-disrupting process of the vials. The first taught the merchant to use the corruption to summon waters from the deeps and to calm the rushing winds. Then castrated him and burned his loins with the coherent fires to contain the source corruption of the vials. The merchant went on to found the garden city in the deep lemon desert and become the famous water eunuch prince. And we are unsure what the wisdom of these stories are, but they are pretty violent, and Satrap 75 tells these stories as if there is some kind of wisdom to be gleaned. But they also obviously teach you about soul transfer. Mm-hmm. Kev, you have a week to work, if you want to, on the monocle I think Nida is trying to make from the shard.
Yes, that seems like a good use of his time.
Mm-hmm. And so describe how the... so I would say that it takes like, let's say, 4 rests to do it. 4 is a bit much. Let's say 2. So you can finish the project if you stay at a place for another week. So after the first week, how does it look like? It's not done yet.
He's getting stuck because the material that he's working with is he's very unused to working with this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So he's having to go around and ask a lot of questions of people to supplement his own knowledge of things. So he is able to find a good a helmet that he can mount it into, which is kind of overkill in terms of, this was supposed to be a monocle, but he tends to over he doesn't simplify things. He tends to
overcomplicate them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So that works out quite well.
Yeah. Nice. And Nida, do you buy the karma dust?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
there's a trade good here. So we're 7 sacks at 1,000 per. So that's 7K we're taking out of the
chest. And so after 2 weeks at the Spectrum Palace, we finally see our caravan leaving the place, and it is a pretty impressive caravan. So there's in the front, I assume there's the Redlander auto wagon, which is like a truck that you stole from some bandits. It has the fuzzy dice on the factory mirror. It has like a skull as a shift stick, a gear stick. It has the para radio, which picks up signals from the past and from the ghost field. Then there is the bone wagon, which you bought from the behemoth shell, which is fashioned. It's like these big bones from some prehistoric beast that is mended by bone mancy. Then you have obviously the porcelain walker, which is an impressive four-legged walker with these big compartments on its back. And then there is a dwarven truck that is also massive. And so this gigantic caravan is slowly leaving the Spectrum Palace.